Here's indirect bonding bracket placement session number 2. In this case, we have a class 2 division 2 patient. Also a very deep bite. You can see that his cuspids are not quite in yet. No, not all of them are in. Very rotated cuspids, blocked out cuspids. We can also see that the torque on his maxillary incisors is not ideal. They're fairly retroclined. So this is going to be a nice case which is going to give him some more lip support, and he needs it with the nose that, he's got a fairly prominent nose. So that's where we're going to be starting here on this class 2 division 2 deep bite patient. And I just out of habit usually start with the lower arch. So we're going to pick up this lower arch here, and we're just going to simply see what we have. All right. So as mentioned before, our lower fives are typically, our upper or lower fives are typically our kind of rate limiting step, if you will. So I like to try to get those guys as gingival as I can get them. And and one little cue here is just looking at the amount of enamel that's exposed from the edge of the premolar bracket to the tip of the premolar bracket. And whatever this is, we want to have just a little bit more than that on the 4. Whatever you have on the 5, you want to have slightly more, maybe half a millimeter more on the 4. Okay, and as if you can get another 1/4 millimeter squeezed out, well then hallelujah, because that is simply going to help you create this curve of Spee within your bracket placement, which then is going to cause your wire to act almost like a reverse curve of Spee. Okay, so we see a marginal ridge discrepancy here between the 6 and the 5. So therefore, the 6 should be occlusal to the 5, which it is, and perhaps we even scooched up just a smidge more, which also builds in a little bit more of that accentuated curve of Spee into the bracket positions. All right, and then we're simply looking at bracket placements here in the anterior. And as I mentioned before, I really like to cheat my laterals a little bit to the mesial. Central's right on the money in the center. And then once again, cheat the lateral a little bit to the mesial. Average bracket position here, I'd say, around 4 millimeters. Okay, let's just for fun, let's just kind of see where it ended up here. And look at that, right at 4 millimeters. Okay, so 4, 4, 4, and 4. Okay. So let's go around to the patient's left side, and let's look at those same little parameters here that we were examining on this deep bite case, where we want to try to build in an accentuated curve of Spee by bringing these 6s and 7s up, bringing these 4s and 5s down, and especially the 4. The 4 is when you're really going to get that deep bite correction. We have a marginal ridge discrepancy here anyway, so we know that that 4 bracket should be gingival to the 5, and the 5, once again, marginal ridge discrepancy, so the 5 needs to be gingival to the 6. Okay, so a little stepwise fashion here, and of course we can measure it, but we're at our limit of where we can go on our 5, so I know that that's where we need to be. So 6, 5, 4. The 3 is kind of blocked out. We can't really get a good bracket position on that, so we're going to wait and place that at a later date. And same thing here on this 3. We'll just open up those spaces there with some open coil springs. Now in this case, because of the severe depth of the bite, it's got an impinging deep bite. We'll be putting on bite turbos, day 1. Probably some open coil springs in all these cuspid areas, perhaps except for the upper maxillary left cuspid. And so once we get these brackets placed here, we go ahead and just hit them with a curing light. And it doesn't take much just to keep them from getting bumped as we take them back to the lab to make our indirect bonding tray, okay? But the point I want to get across here is that on deep bite cases, I want to build in this accentuated curve of Spee so that when our wire goes in there, that wire wants to level out. It's going to extrude these premolars, it's going to intrude the molars and the incisors, and that's going to help open up the deep bite. All right, let's move to the maxillary arch, where if we look at his facial photo, he actually, has a pretty good looking smile arc. Okay, we know we're going to get some lateral development here, but we really don't want to change that smile arc too much. Okay, so it appears that my lab technician, noticed we had some gingival inflammation here on the 5, so we left this bracket off. So we're going to look at the difference between this. We're going to directly bond this one. Okay, so we'll look at the difference between the 6 and the 4 here. And the 4 does have a little bit of a mesial inclination, which is indeed reflected in this mesial inclination of the bracket position. And I like it. That 4 should be about 4.5 millimeters from the, and we've got it up there about 5 millimeters, which I'm okay with. That's about 5 millimeters there. I'm okay with that. That just means that this lateral incisor needs, relative to that 4, okay, remember, if this 4 is 5.5, that means the 3, excuse me, if the maxillary first premolar is at 5 millimeters, then the cuspid needs to be at 5.5, and then the lateral incisor also needs to be at 5.5. So let's look and see if we have that, and we don't quite have that, so we're going to move that up to 5.5 there, and now we do. Boom. Okay, it looks like we're missing a little adhesive there. I'm going to scooch this guy over and readjust here at 5.5. All right, and then that means that the central incisor needs to be up here at 6. Now, if we don't want to put our brackets up that high, it's pretty simple. All you got to do is come back over here, move this move this premolar down 0.5 millimeter, okay, because it's all relative. So if we want to move this down just 0.5 millimeter, now we've got this premolar set at 4. That means that the cuspid will be at 4.5, that the lateral will be at 4.5, and the central should be at 5.5. Actually, central should be at 5. All right, I'm getting my numbers mixed up here in terms of the table. So my point is, if you move that premolar down just a little bit, then that means you can, all right, so what do we say here? This is 4.5. That means that the cuspid and the lateral are both going to be at 5 millimeters. All right, let's move those down to 5 millimeters now. Okay, and that means that this central incisor should be at 5.5 millimeters, just in case we didn't want to move it all the way up to the gingival margin there. So the centrals are going at 5.5, laterals are going at 5. Okay, and then, oops, we'll get that on there. And then cuspids are 5, and first buys are going to be at 4.5. So let's check that out, 4.5. And bring the guy down just a little bit. All right, cool. So that's all we got to do. It's just simply adjust. The posterior teeth are like your base arch, if you will. They are the component that's going to be very challenging to move. All right, so once again, we do have a little bit of a mesial inclination on this 4 here. So I'm just going to put that there, and we're just going to basically put this 5 on, and a little bit of you can see there's a marginal ridge discrepancy here and here. So when this bracket goes on, that slot needs to be about 0.5 millimeter gingival, so that we can extrude it into a good occlusal relationship. Okay, when it's all said and done, and we have a marginal ridge, it's all matched up. All right, so that's how we would set up this little case here. And I think we got a little overboard on our tip here on our 2. So we adjusted that just a little bit. There we go. So that's better. And so I'm going to light cure and call it a day for this case.